The crash. The sky above was black, filled with lightning and wind. Eli's small ship shook hard as he tried to control it. Red lights flashed on every screen. The warning voice repeated, "System failure. Crash landing. Prepare for impact." Eli took a deep breath and gripped the controls. "Come on, just hold together a little longer," he whispered. But the ship didn't listen. With a loud crack, the engines exploded. The ship spun, then dropped fast through thick clouds. Below, the planet was white and frozen. Mountains of ice and deep snow stretched as far as he could see. The crash was loud and violent. Eli's seatbelt saved his life. Metal bent. Glass shattered. When everything stopped moving, there was silence. Only the sound of wind remained. Eli opened his eyes. Blood trickled down his forehead. His ship was broken. Sparks flew from the control panel. The air was cold, too cold. His breath came out in white puffs. His fingers were already numb. He grabbed his emergency pack, put on a thick coat, and stepped outside. The cold hit him like a punch. It was worse than anything he'd ever felt. The wind howled like a living thing. "No signal," he said, looking at his broken comm. "No help. No one's coming." He had to find shelter. Each step in the snow was hard. His boots sank deep, and the wind pushed him back. He walked for what felt like hours, but it was only 30 minutes. Then he saw something strange in the distance. Movement. He crouched low. Something tall and armored walked through the snow. Not human. A figure, silver blue armor shining, came closer. A long weapon in hand. A helmet with glowing lines. Eli's heart pounded. The alien stopped and looked straight at him. Then she raised her weapon. Eli stood still, hands up. "I'm not your enemy," he shouted, though he knew she might not understand. The alien didn't shoot. She came closer and took off her helmet. Her face was sharp, beautiful, but fierce. Pale skin, dark eyes that didn't blink. Long white hair moved in the wind. She spoke something he didn't understand. Her voice was firm, deep, and commanding. I don't know what you're saying," Eli said. She looked at the sky, then at the snowstorm around them. Her face changed. She grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. "Wait. What are you doing?" She pointed to the mountains and said one word, clear and strong. "Shelter." Eli didn't argue. They ran together through the storm. Her grip was strong, her movements fast. Eli struggled to keep up. After a long run, they'd reached a narrow opening between two rocks. The alien pushed aside a snow-covered door and pulled him inside. It was a cave, dark but safe from the wind. She lit a fire using strange stones. Warmth filled the small space. Eli sat down, shivering. "Thank you," he said, still breathing hard. "You saved me." The alien didn't answer. She looked at him, then pointed to the corner where a single bedroll lay on the ground. Thick blankets, just one set. Eli frowned. "Wait, is that just one bed?" She nodded. Then she said, slowly, in broken English, "Cold. Kills. One bed. Share heat." He blinked. "Are you serious?" She looked at him with no emotion. "No bed. No heat. You die." She started removing her armor, piece by piece. Her body was lean, scared, and strong. She lay down on the bed and pulled the blanket tight. Eli stood there, frozen, this time from shock, not cold. She looked at him again. "Choose. Live or freeze." He hesitated, then slowly stepped toward the bed and lay down beside her, leaving space between them. The heat from her body was real, and his cold bones began to thaw. Still, his heart was racing. He whispered, "This is the weirdest day of my life." Without looking at him, she replied in a low voice, "You talk too much." They lay in silence. Outside, the wind screamed like a wild beast. Inside, two enemies, or maybe strangers, lay side by side. The ice couldn't kill them tonight, but something else might. One bed, two worlds. The fire crackled softly in the cave. Outside, the wind howled like a monster waiting to come in. Eli lay stiffly beside the alien warrior. His back faced her. She was silent, calm, and still. He, on the other hand, couldn't stop thinking. He was lying beside a stranger, a deadly alien, a warrior who could probably break his neck in 1 second. And yet, she had saved his life. Again and again, her voice echoed in his mind. Cold kills. One bed. Share heat. He turned slightly and peeked over his shoulder. She was awake. Her glowing eyes were open, staring at the dark ceiling. "You're not asleep?" he asked softly. "No," she replied, without turning. A long silence followed. He wanted to say something, anything, just to fill the space, but everything sounded stupid in his head. Finally, he said, "Thanks for not letting me die." Kalara shifted slightly but said nothing. "You didn't have to help me. Why did you?" he asked. She turned her face toward him. "I don't let things die without reason." "Is that kindness?" Eli teased with a nervous smile. Kalara didn't smile back. "No, efficiency." He sighed and turned back to stare at the fire. "Of course." The next morning, Eli woke up feeling alive, warm, surprisingly, and very aware of the fact that Kalara's arm was across his chest. He froze, not because of the cold this time, but because of the contact. She stirred, noticed, and quickly moved away. No apology, no words. She simply stood up and began to suit up again, putting her armor back on, piece by piece. Eli sat up slowly, wrapping the blanket around himself. "So, what's the plan?" Kalara didn't answer right away. She checked a small device on her wrist. It glowed with alien symbols. She looked at him. "There's an old beacon 2 days from here. It might still send a signal." Eli nodded. "Then we go there, together." She hesitated, then said, "You are weak, slow, but smart. You fix things. So yes, together." He stood up, shivering. "Thanks for the compliment, I think." They packed supplies, just enough food and heat packs for 2 days. As they stepped out of the cave, the cold hit them like knives. The snow had stopped falling, but the land ahead was just as deadly. Mountains of ice, endless white, and deep silence. They didn't speak much at first, but Eli kept sneaking glances at her. Kalara moved like a machine, every step strong, controlled, and sure. Her long white hair moved in the cold breeze, and her eyes scanned everything. She looked like she belonged in this frozen world. Eli didn't. After 2 hours of walking, he finally said, "Do your people sleep in caves with strangers often?" Kalara raised an eyebrow. "Only when death waits outside." He chuckled. "Romantic." She stopped. "Romantic. You know, closeness, sharing warmth, lying next to each other under a blanket. Humans might call that romantic." Kalara tilted her head. "Strange. My people would call it tactical survival." Eli laughed. "Well, I guess that explains a lot." Then something caught her attention. She raised her hand. "Quiet." They crouched behind a snow-covered rock. In the distance, something was moving. Slow, heavy steps through the snow. Kalara activated her helmet and peered through a built-in scanner. "Life form," she said. "Large. 4-legged. Hunting." Eli swallowed. "Us. Maybe. Keep moving." Later, as the sun began to sink behind the icy cliffs, they reached a small frozen river. The ice looked thin. Kalara pointed across. "We must cross." "Are you sure it'll hold?" Eli asked, uncertain. "No," she said plainly, and stepped forward anyway. She made it halfway when a loud crack echoed. The ice broke under her foot. She slipped, but Eli grabbed her arm fast. With all his strength, he pulled her back to solid ground. She fell into the snow, breathing hard. He helped her up. "You okay?" Kelara looked at him, stunned. "You pulled me back. Why?" He frowned. "What do you mean why? I wasn't gonna let you fall through the ice." She stared at him for a few long seconds, then nodded, slowly. "Thank you." That night, they found another small cave. Just enough space for 2 people. No firewood, just a heat lamp. As Kelara prepared the lamp, Eli sat down on the cold ground. "You ever get tired of this cold?" Kelara replied, "No, but I have never had someone pull me from it either." She handed him a ration pack. "Eat, then sleep. We share warmth again tonight." Eli took the food. "We should really stop meeting like this." Kelara actually smiled, a small, brief thing, but it was real. As they lay down under the blanket again, she said softly, "Your world must be different." "Yeah," he whispered, "warmer, louder, lonelier sometimes." She looked at him. "You talk too much." He smiled. "And you talk too little." A pause. Then she said, "Maybe I'll learn." The heat between them was more than just body warmth now. Outside, the cold wind blew again. But inside, 2 very different people were slowly learning each other's language, not just of words, but of trust. And maybe something more. The beast in the ice. The night was silent. Too silent. Eli opened his eyes slowly, unsure of what had woken him. The heat lamp beside him still glowed dimly. The cold was biting again, stronger than before. He shivered, even under the blanket. Then he realized something. Kelara wasn't beside him. He sat up quickly, heart pounding. "Kelara." No answer. He looked around the cave. Empty. Then he heard it, faint breathing, just outside. He crawled to the entrance, pulled back the thick cloth they had hung to block the wind, and peeked outside. She was standing there in the snow, completely still, weapon drawn. Her hair flowed in the wind like a silver flame. Eli stepped out carefully. "What is it?" Kelara didn't look at him. "It's here." He froze. "What's here?" She turned her head slowly. Her voice was a whisper. "The ice beast." They had heard the stories earlier that day. Kelara had mentioned it in passing. "A creature that lives in the storm," she had said. "It sleeps deep in the snow. It hates heat. It hunts the warm." Back then, Eli thought she meant it as a warning. Now, he realized, it was a promise. Something massive moved in the distance. Just a shadow at first. A dark, slow-moving shape dragging itself across the snow, sniffing the air. Kelara raised her weapon. It hummed with power. She looked at Eli. "Get inside. Stay low. Do not run." Eli didn't argue. He rushed back into the cave and grabbed the emergency flare from his bag. It was small, but it might help. He peeked out again. The beast was closer now. Huge. Covered in thick white fur, spikes of ice growing from its back. Its eyes glowed blue like frozen fire. Its claws were long and curved like knives. It let out a roar that shook the ground. Kelara didn't flinch. She stood tall and calm, weapon aimed. The beast charged. Eli didn't know what came over him. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was something else. But instead of hiding, he ran out into the snow, holding the flare. "Hey, ugly," he shouted, lighting it. The red light burst like fire against the white snow. The beast turned its head toward Eli, confused for a moment, then angry. It started to change direction. Kelara growled. "Foolish human." She sprinted, leaping into the air, and landed on the beast's back, stabbing it with her blade. The weapon sent a jolt of energy through the creature's body. The beast roared again, throwing her off. She crashed into the snow with a grunt, armor sparking. Eli rushed to her, still holding the flare. "Kelara." She coughed but stood again, blood on her lip. "You fight. Like an idiot." "But I fight," Eli replied, smiling through his fear. The beast roared again and charged both of them. Kalara shoved Eli behind her and raised her blade. At the last moment, Eli threw the flare into the beast's open mouth. There was a loud flash. The beast screamed and staggered back, choking on the sudden heat. It thrashed, slammed into a frozen boulder, and then collapsed. Still, dead. The silence returned. Only their heavy breathing remained. Eli dropped to his knees, shaking. "Did we kill it?" Kalara nodded, wiping blood from her chin. "Yes, for now." He looked at her, her face pale, her armor cracked, her body trembling. "You're hurt." "I've been worse," she whispered, and then fell forward. Eli caught her just in time. He dragged her back into the cave, laid her down carefully, and took off the broken pieces of her armor. Her arm was badly bruised. Her skin was cold. "You're freezing," he whispered. She tried to speak but couldn't. Eli grabbed all the blankets and wrapped them around her. He lit a second heat pack and pressed it gently against her side. He sat close, holding her hand. For once, she didn't pull away. Hours passed. When she finally opened her eyes again, he was still sitting there, holding her hand. She blinked. "You stayed. Where else would I go?" Eli smiled gently. "You saved me. I return the favor." Kalara's voice was soft, almost human now. "You ran toward the beast. Why?" He paused. "Because you would have done it for me." A small smile touched her lips. "You are very strange." He chuckled. "Takes one to know one." She looked at his hand, still holding hers. "Human skin is warm." Eli leaned closer. "You get used to it." She didn't pull away. Instead, she moved a little closer. The silence between them wasn't cold anymore. Outside, the beast's body began to freeze completely. Snow covered it again, as if it had never been there. But inside the cave, a different kind of warmth was growing. Not from the heat lamps, not from the blankets, but from something far more dangerous. Trust, connection, and maybe the beginning of something neither of them could explain. Footprints that shouldn't exist. The storm had passed, but the silence it left behind was even colder. Eli stepped out of the cave, the snow crunching beneath his boots. The sun was barely a pale circle behind gray clouds. The cold didn't stab him anymore. It just stayed, heavy like a second skin. Kalara stood nearby, testing the movement of her left arm. Her wound was healing, but slowly. He watched her in silence. She was strong, that much he knew. But what surprised him now was how human she looked. Her face still held that sharp warrior edge, but something had changed. She noticed him watching. "I'm not broken," she said calmly. Eli smiled. "Didn't say you were. Just glad you're still standing." She nodded once. "We move soon. No more delays." He agreed. The beacon wasn't far now. Maybe one more day of walking. But as they packed their things, Kalara suddenly stopped. Her eyes narrowed. She bent down near the cave's entrance. "What is it?" Eli asked. She pointed at the ground. "Footprints." He followed her gaze. In the fresh snow were tracks. Not theirs. Large, deep, and not from the beast they had killed. These were different. Lighter, smarter, and fresh. "Someone's been here," Eli whispered. Kalara stood slowly. Or something. They started walking, carefully. No more talking. Only alert eyes and silent steps. Kalara took the lead, scanning the area with her visor. Eli followed behind, watching their surroundings with growing unease. He kept thinking, who else could survive out here? Every few minutes, they saw more footprints, always ahead of them, sometimes close, sometimes far, like they were being led or lured. Eli finally spoke. "Maybe it's another survivor." Kalara shook her head. No distress signals. No signs of battle. No mistakes. This is not a human. He paused. Then what is it? She didn't answer. By late afternoon, they reached a narrow canyon between two ice walls. The tracks led straight inside. Kalara stopped. We don't go through there. Eli frowned. Why not? She pointed to the canyon floor. One way in, no way out if trapped. He looked ahead. The walls of the canyon were high and sharp like blades of glass. The wind echoed strangely through them, like whispers that didn't match the wind's direction. Eli shivered. Okay, you've convinced me. They walked around instead, a longer path, but Kalara said it was safer. She had been trained for survival in frozen worlds. She had spent years fighting wars on icy moons. Eli trusted her instincts now, more than he trusted his own. As they climbed a slope of ice, Kalara suddenly froze. Eli bumped into her. What? She raised a finger to her lips, then slowly pointed down the hill. At the bottom, where they had just been minutes ago, someone stood. Tall, thin, wrapped in white. No face visible. No movement. Just watching. Eli's voice was barely a whisper. Who is that? Kalara didn't speak. The figure tilted its head, then slowly stepped back and vanished into the snow. That night, they didn't find a cave. They had to camp in the open, under a rock ledge, hidden from the wind. They didn't light a fire. Kalara set traps around their camp using sharp metal threads and small sonic triggers. Eli helped, though his hands were shaking. Do you know what that thing was? He finally asked. Kalara stared at the snowy dark. No, but I've seen it before. When? Before my squad died. They said someone was watching us. I didn't believe them. Eli swallowed. You think it followed you here? She didn't answer, just whispered, sleep lightly tonight. In the middle of the night, Eli woke up to a soft sound, like something brushing the edge of the ledge above them. He opened his eyes slowly. Kalara was already awake, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She held her weapon close, completely still. Then it came again. A low whisper, like a voice with no mouth. Eli couldn't understand the words. It wasn't any language he knew, but it felt wrong. Kalara stood up and aimed her weapon at the edge of the cliff. Suddenly, one of her traps snapped. The sound echoed across the ice. Then, silence. Kalara ran to the tripwire and checked. The trap was triggered, but nothing was caught. Only a strange mark on the snow. A spiral, pressed deep like it had been carved by a hand or a claw. Eli joined her. What is that? Kalara stared at it for a long time. A warning, she whispered. The next morning, snow had covered most of the tracks, but not all of them. As they walked toward the beacon's direction, Eli noticed something strange. Some of the new footprints looked almost human, but they were wrong. The toes were too long, the steps too light, and the stride too wide to be natural. He looked at Kalara. What do we do if it attacks again? She didn't answer right away. Then she said something that made his skin go cold. It doesn't want to attack. Eli frowned. Then what does it want? She looked at him, eyes colder than the wind around them. You. As the sky grew dark again, they finally saw it, far ahead, at the top of a frozen hill. The old beacon, half buried in snow, rusted, broken, but still standing. Eli's heart lifted with hope. We made it. Kalara raised her weapon. Not yet. They climbed the hill, step by step. But even before they reached the beacon, Eli felt it again. That feeling. They weren't alone. And somewhere in the snow behind them, something was smiling. The trap. The beacon was dead. Half buried in snow, its metal frame creaked in the cold wind. Rust covered the antenna, and one leg was broken. The light at the top, meant to blink every 5 seconds, was dark. Kalara knelt beside the machine, brushing off ice with her hands. It's old. Ancient tech. Ela joined her. Can you fix it? She glanced at him. I thought you were the fixer. He smiled faintly, pulling out the small toolkit from his bag. All right then. Let's bring this frozen junk back to life. As he worked, Kalara kept watch, her weapon in hand, her breath visible in the cold. Every few minutes, she turned her head to scan the area. Something was wrong. The snow was too quiet. No wind, no animal sounds, just silence. Ely, she said suddenly, work fast. He nodded, already on it. He connected wires, reset the power source, and bypassed the control panel. After 20 minutes, he heard a faint hum. The beacon flickered. Then, a single red light blinked at the top. He grinned. Yes, it's working. Kalara looked up at the light. Good, now we wait for a ship. But before she could finish her sentence, the snow exploded. Flash bombs, smoke grenades, sonic disruptors. Everything hit at once. Ely was thrown backward, hitting the frozen ground hard. His ears rang. His vision blurred. He coughed and tried to stand, but shadows moved fast around him. Figures in white armor. Tall. Fast. Alien. They grabbed him before he could fight back. A weapon jabbed into his neck, delivering a shock. Pain shot through his body. And then, darkness. When Ely woke up, he was inside a frozen prison cell. The walls were metal but frosted with ice. The floor was wet. The light above him flickered weakly. He stood slowly, rubbing his head. Then he saw her. Kalara. Across the hall. She was chained to a metal pillar, her arms stretched above her. Her head hung low. Her armor had been stripped off, leaving her in a dark undersuit torn at the shoulder. Blood dripped from a cut near her eye. Kalara, he shouted, rushing to the bars. She didn't look up. A voice spoke behind him. She can't answer. We silenced her. Ely turned sharply. A tall alien stood outside the cell, wearing commander armor, silver and black, with glowing lines across his chest. His face was thin, with ridged cheekbones and red eyes that didn't blink. You must be the human, the alien said, the one she broke protocol for. Ely clenched his fists. Who are you? I am General Ravax. And she, he pointed at Kalara, was a traitor to our command. Until now. She saved me, Ely snapped. You call that betrayal? She disobeyed orders. She protected a foreign species. She killed her own kind during the Ice War. And now she shares her bed with a human. Ravax stepped closer. But what's worse, she gave you her trust. Ely stepped forward, fury building in his chest. Let her go. Ravax smiled coldly. No, she will die for what she did. Unless. He paused. Unless you tell us what technology the humans are planning to bring to this side of the galaxy. Ely blinked. What? We know Earth has new weapons, faster ships. You crashed for a reason. You were scouting. Tell us what you know, and we might spare her. Ely stared at him. Then at Kalara. She had raised her head now. Her lips were bleeding, but her eyes were sharp. And they were shaking no. Ely said nothing. Ravax waited. Speak, or she dies. Ely took a deep breath. And then, he spat at the alien's feet. Ravax's expression turned dark. So be it. He pressed a button. The pillar Kalara was tied to lit up. The electricity shot through her body. She screamed, her back arching. Ely roared, slamming against the bars. Stop it. Stop. Ravax watched her suffer for another second, then turned it off. She has hours, he said. Maybe less. Use them wisely. Then he walked away. As soon as he was gone, Ely scanned the cell for weaknesses. He found none. So instead, he dropped to the ground and pulled out a tiny device from his boot. A multi-tool, the one he'd hidden during the ambush. He got to work on the lock, fast and quiet. Across the hall, Kalara watched him. Her voice, barely a whisper now, slipped past her bloody lips. "You should have left." Eli glanced at her. "And let you die? Never. You'll be killed. Maybe. But not before I break every rule to save you." She smiled weakly. "Human, idiot." The lock clicked open. He was out. He moved fast, took down 2 guards using surprise and stealth, grabbed a weapon. He reached her cell, shot the lock open, and caught her before she fell. She leaned against him, weak but alive. "You're really bad at following orders," she whispered. He grinned. "Only yours." Together, they ran down the hallway. Alarms started to scream. Revax's voice echoed over the comms. "Stop them. Kill the human. Bring her back." Kalara leaned on Eli as they ran through the snow-covered corridor. She was bleeding. Slowing down. He stopped. She looked up. "Why?" He lifted her into his arms. "You carried me with your strength," he said. "Now let me carry you with mine." And he ran. Through gunfire. Through fire. Through hell. They reached the surface. The night sky was filled with lights, ships moving in the distance. A rescue beacon was working. Someone was coming. Kalara looked up, eyes wide. "You did it." Eli held her close. "No, we did." As she closed her eyes against his chest, her last words before fainting were quiet. "You are not like the others." And for the first time in her life, she was not alone. The beacon. The wind had changed. It no longer howled like a storm. It whispered like something watching. Eli stood at the top of the ridge, his coat flapping in the wind, Kalara cradled in his arms. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. Every few seconds she groaned softly, her body trembling from the pain of the electric torture. The icy land stretched far below them. Endless snow, cracked ice, and quiet death. But one thing stood out. The beacon still blinked. Red. Alive. It was sending out a signal. But the question now wasn't if someone would come. It was who. Eli carried her into a shallow cave near the ridge, just enough to break the wind. He laid her down gently, placing his pack under her head. She coughed weakly, then opened her eyes. "Did we make it?" she whispered. "You're safe," he said softly. "At least for now." Kalara blinked slowly. "You should have left me." Eli shook his head. "I couldn't. You don't belong here." He smiled, brushing a piece of her white hair away from her face. "Maybe not, but I belong next to you." Her lips moved into the softest smile he had ever seen. Strange human. He sat beside her, wrapping the blanket over both of them. The cold outside pressed hard, but inside there was a warmth between them stronger than any fire. Hours passed. The sky turned dark blue. Stars appeared. And then, a light. A ship. Far away, just above the horizon. A shadow moving across the stars. Eli stood, eyes wide. "It's coming. Someone's coming." He turned back to Kalara. "You hear that? We're getting out of here." But Kalara didn't look happy. In fact, she looked worried. Her voice was weak. "That's not a human ship." Eli frowned. "Then whose is it?" She stared at the light. "My people. Revax's fleet. Reinforcements." Eli's chest went tight. "But didn't we already escape them?" Kalara looked away. "Not all of them." He ran to the beacon and shut it off. Too late. The ship was already coming down. They didn't have long. Eli helped her up. She could barely stand. But she leaned on him, trusting him now without hesitation. He led her away from the ridge, deeper into the snow, away from the light. Behind them, the ship landed. It was large, sharp-edged, with glowing lines running across its side like veins. As its ramp dropped, figures in white armor stepped out. Soldiers. And at the front, Ravax. His red eyes scanned the snow. He shouted, "You cannot hide forever." Kalara heard his voice and whispered, "He'll hunt until I'm dead." Eli looked at her. "Then we don't let him find you." She shook her head slowly. "He wants you now. You humiliated him." He smirked. "Good. Then maybe I can return the favor." They reached another cave system, deeper and darker than before. The walls sparkled with frozen crystals. Inside, Kalara collapsed. Her body had reached its limit. Eli knelt beside her. "Don't give up on me now." She touched his face gently. "You don't understand." "What?" "I was not supposed to feel this." "Feel what?" She looked into his eyes. "Warmth. Kindness. You." He swallowed hard. "Kalara, I was raised to kill. I never believed anyone would care." Eli leaned closer. "And I never thought I'd fall for someone who could stab through steel." She smiled faintly. "You talk too much." He chuckled. "And you don't talk enough." She reached up and touched his hand. "I want to live," she whispered, "with you." Before he could answer, a sound echoed down the cave. Footsteps. Eli jumped to his feet. He grabbed Kalara's weapon, her blade staff, and stood at the entrance. Ravax appeared. Alone. "No soldiers?" Eli asked. Ravax smiled. "They were too slow. I don't need them for this." He looked past Eli at Kalara, bleeding and pale on the ground. "Give her to me," he said, "and I'll let you go." Eli gripped the weapon tighter. "You'll have to kill me." Ravax raised a brow. "That can be arranged." Then they clashed. The fight was brutal. Eli had never used her weapon before, but he fought like someone with nothing to lose. Ravax was stronger, faster, trained for war, but Eli had something else. Reason, fire, love. Every time Ravax knocked him down, Eli got up. Every time he was hit, he hit back harder. At one point, Ravax shouted, "Why risk your life for her?" Eli's answer was simple. "Because she'd do it for me." Finally, Eli landed a blow that sent Ravax crashing into the ice wall. He dropped to his knees. Kalara crawled forward, grabbed a shard of her broken blade, and threw it. It struck Ravax in the chest. He collapsed, breathing once, then never again. Silence. Eli stood panting, blood dripping from his forehead. Kalara crawled to his side. He dropped to his knees and held her. "You're okay," he whispered. "We're okay." And then another sound. Engines. A second ship appeared in the sky. This one was different. Rounder, sleeker, glowing blue. Human design. "Your people," Kalara whispered. Eli smiled. Finally, the rescue team landed nearby. Medics rushed out. They carried Kalara into the warm ship. As they treated her wounds, Eli held her hand. She looked at him, eyes half open. "They won't understand. You and me." He leaned close. "Then let them be confused." She smiled again. "Stay close," she whispered. "Always." As the ship lifted off from the frozen land, Eli sat beside her, watching the white world fade beneath them. Outside, it was cold. But inside, two enemies had become something more. Not because of orders, not because of duty, but because, in the loneliest place in the galaxy, they had found each other. Rescue or goodbye. The ship was warm. Too warm. Eli blinked as the medics patched the cut above his eye. The bright white lights hurt his eyes after so many cold, dark days on the planet below. Beside him, Kalara lay on a stretcher. Her armor was gone, her body wrapped in soft blankets. Tubes connected to her arm. Monitors beeped slowly. She looked peaceful, almost asleep. But her hand was still in his. She hadn't let go. And neither had he. It had only been a few hours since the rescue, but things moved fast. Too fast. The commander of the human rescue ship, Captain Danae entered the room. Her coat was clean, pressed. Her face was sharp and cold. She looked at Eli, then at Kelara, then back at Eli. "You're lucky we found your signal," she said. "Luckier still that we didn't find your frozen body." Eli didn't smile. "We made our own luck." She looked at Kelara with a frown. "And this one?" Eli's voice was calm. "She saved my life. More than once. She's an alien. She's a person." Captain Danae didn't reply right away. Then she said, "You understand we can't just let her go. We need to question her. She may be an enemy." Eli stood. "She's not the enemy. The enemy tortured her, hunted her, tried to kill both of us. She's still from the other side." "Eli," Dana said quietly, "there are rules." He looked at Kelara, and then he said something he hadn't even planned to say. "Then I'll break the rules." Later, in a quiet corner of the ship, Eli stood alone. The stars outside moved slowly as the ship glided through space. His mind was spinning. He had come to this galaxy to scout a frozen moon. He was supposed to collect data. He was not supposed to fall for someone who wasn't even human. And yet, here he was, lost in thought, until a voice spoke behind him. "I thought you were smarter than this." Eli turned. Kelara stood in the hallway, still weak, still pale, but standing. She wore simple gray clothes now, given by the ship's crew. No armor, no weapons, just her. He stared. "You're awake." She walked closer. "I heard what you said. To your captain." He scratched the back of his neck. "Yeah, well, maybe I talked too much." She stopped in front of him. "You said you'd break the rules." "I meant it." Her voice was soft. "Then I will too." They stood in silence, looking at each other, everything between them. The cold, the cave, the shared bed, the beast, the pain, the rescue. It all lived in their eyes now. "I thought I would die down there," she said. "I was ready for it." "But you didn't," he said, "because you weren't alone." She nodded. "And I don't want to be alone now." He smiled. "Then don't be." But things weren't that simple. That night, they were called to a meeting room. Two sides of the table. On one side, human officers, scientists, and guards. On the other, a hologram link from Kelara's people, her High Council. They had received a signal too. They demanded her return. Captain Dana looked at Eli. "You can speak for her, if you want." Eli stepped forward. "She risked her life to save mine. Not just once. Again and again. She fought her own kind. She chose peace. She chose to protect, not destroy." The Alien Council's voice echoed coldly through the room. She abandoned her oath. She shared warmth with a human. Eli stepped closer to the hologram. "Yes, she did. And maybe that's the bravest thing anyone has ever done." Silence. Then the council said, "She must face trial. Alone." Kelara stood now, calm, proud, strong again. "I will face the trial," she said, "but not alone." The room froze. "What are you saying?" the council asked. Kelara looked at Eli. "If I go, he comes too." Captain Danae stood. "That's not possible." But Eli stepped forward. "Yes, it is. I'm going." Danae frowned. "You'll be a prisoner. On another world." He smiled. Better a prisoner with her than free without her. 3 days later, a shuttle waited on the landing deck. Kelara stood at the ramp. Eli joined her, a simple pack over his shoulder. "You sure about this?" she asked. He looked at her and nodded. "You?" She nodded back. "Where I'd walk, you walk." They boarded together, and as the shuttle rose into the stars, leaving behind the humans, the cold, and all the things they once believed, two enemies who shared a bed in the snow became something else. Partners. Allies. Something stronger. Something warmer. Final scene. Somewhere across the galaxy, In a courtroom lit by starlight, Kalara stood trial. And beside her, not behind, not hidden, stood Eli, a human. Her defense, her witness, her reason. The council questioned everything. Why had she broken rules? Why had she fought her own? Why had she chosen him? Her answer was simple. He saved me by showing me that trust can be stronger than armor. That warmth is not weakness. She turned to Eli. And that love is not limited by species. Silence filled the room. And slowly, one by one, the council stood, not to punish her, but to bow.